I'm Mira Kessler. I'm 32. And 3 months ago, the first thing I heard wasn't a doctor's voice or my baby's heartbeat. It was a court stamp. A wet, heavy stamp slamming down on a manila folder on the clinic counter while I stood there holding a prenatal appointment card in one hand and a grocery receipt in the other. Not a sound you ignore. Not a sound you unhear. That stamp cost me my marriage, my reputation, and the last excuse I was clinging to. And the humiliating part? Nobody stopped it. They watched. I'm not telling this as a victim. I'm telling it as someone who spent 8 years building compliance systems for hospitals, contracts, audits, paper trails. I've seen this pattern. Greed always leaves fingerprints. So I did something most people are too soft to do. I set a trap. And before you say I'm exaggerating, here's the first receipt. A single line in a bank alert email. Authorized user added. Look at the date. It happened the same week my husband told me we were tight, and I should start cutting coupons. That's where the lie starts. I didn't always know I was married to a lie. For a long time, I thought I was married to a rough patch. I thought we were doing what couples do, making it work for now. 6 months earlier, I was 7 months pregnant, driving through rain at midnight to deliver groceries for an app that paid in tips. I'd drag bags upstairs, breathe through the cramps, and tell myself it was temporary. That Evan, my husband of 2 years, was handling it. He was handling it, all right. I grew up in a house where money didn't announce itself. My guardian was my aunt, Rosemary Vale. People still called her Judge Vale, even after she retired, because the title fit her bones. She wasn't sentimental, but she was steady. She drove an old SUV until it died. She owned 3 pairs of shoes. And she taught me one rule that never failed her. If you can't explain a transaction, you don't approve it. When I was 13, I tried to buy concert tickets from a sketchy seller online. Rosemary didn't yell. She just asked for the receipt. There wasn't one. She closed my laptop and said, "Then it isn't real." She raised me after my mother died and my father collapsed into silence. Rosemary didn't fill the house with warmth. She filled it with structure. I left for college, built a career, and learned how to make other people's systems cleaner than their intentions. And then I met Evan Pike. He wasn't flashy. He was polished in a careful way. At a fundraiser, he listened like he was collecting data. He remembered details. He made me feel chosen. He worked in finance fundraising, capital placement, the kind of job where the phone never stops. When he asked me out, he offered coffee and a walk. It felt simple. It felt safe. We dated 10 months. He proposed in a public garden with a photographer who was just there. I thought it was romantic. Now I know it was planned. Rosemary met him twice before she nodded. That nod mattered to me more than it should have. The joint account Evan suggested we open made sense on paper. Streamlined, he said. Transparent. One place. Shared expenses. He said he was better with numbers. He said he'd handle bills so I wouldn't carry that mental load. It sounded like love. It was control. The first months of marriage were fine. Then the tight talk started. A client delayed a payout. A deal shifted. His bonus was late. Evan always said it calmly, like panic was something only other people did. I believed him because I wanted to. Then he suggested I take a break from work when we decided to try for a baby. "Let me handle it for a while," he said. "You've earned a rest." I had a good job, compliance and contracts at a healthcare nonprofit. I liked it. I was good at it. But I also wanted to believe being cared for meant being safe. So I stepped back. That's when the grocery math began. The grocery budget shrank. Evan's spending didn't. I started counting. I stopped buying anything that felt like comfort. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself marriage had seasons. Then I got pregnant, and seasons turned into survival. By my 6th month, I signed up for gig delivery, just to help. 2 nights a week. Not because Evan demanded it. Because I didn't want to be the wife who couldn't contribute. That word contribute was the hook he used to pull me into my own humiliation. Evan knew I was delivering. He called it resourceful. He kissed my forehead before a shift and told me he was proud. Like my exhaustion was cute. He didn't say it like a man sitting on money. I didn't know until after my son was born that Rosemary had been quietly funding an account in my name since the day I got married. Every month. $150,000. For 30 months. $4.5 million. It wasn't an inheritance. It wasn't a random gift. It was Rosemary's safety system, her version of love. While I was clipping coupons and delivering groceries, my name was sitting on enough money to change my life, and my husband was drinking it like water. If you're still here, tap like quietly, no speech, no begging. Just hit it and keep moving. I didn't do that back then. I kept leaving doors open because I thought that made me good. It made me easy. Evan's mother, Janice Pike, started showing up more after I got pregnant. She lived an hour away and treated our home like a space she could correct. She'd arrive with pastries and opinions, calling it help. She'd rearrange things without asking. "Oh, honey," she'd say, smiling. "You don't want heavy plates up there." Then she'd move them. Packages started arriving. Not for me, for Evan. Some for Janice. When I asked, Evan said he'd done well on a placement and treated his mom to something nice. He said it cleanly, like a man who didn't owe explanations. In my 7th month, Evan and Janice went away for a work retreat. He sent photos, mountain fog, wine, a plate of expensive food, and texted, "Wish you were here." I replied, "Looks beautiful." 2 weeks earlier, I'd declined the upgraded birthing suite because the extra fee scared me. I told the nurse I didn't need it. My son was born on a Thursday morning. We named him Leo. He came out furious at the bright lights, like the world had already disappointed him. Rosemary came to the hospital on day 2. She held Leo in silence. Then she looked at me, at my worn hoodie, at the way I angled my body away from the billing desk, at my hands raw from bags and sanitizer. She pulled her chair closer like she was stepping into a hearing. "Mira," she said, voice quiet like a courtroom. "Wasn't $150 a month enough?" I blinked. I truly thought I misheard. "The money," she said. "I've sent it every first of the month since your wedding day." Leo slept against my chest. "Aunt Rose?" I whispered. "I've never seen $1." I watched the color leave her face. She didn't argue. She didn't ask if I was sure. She reached into her bag, pulled out her phone, and called one contact. When the line connected, she said 3 words. "Get me Lillian." 40 minutes later, Evan walked into my hospital room. Janice followed him. They were laughing, carrying shopping bags like trophies. The laughter died when they saw Rosemary. Janice's smile shifted into something controlled. "Rosemary," she said. "What a surprise." Rosemary didn't look at her. She looked at Evan. "Evan," she said, like a verdict. Evan set the bags down and tried to keep his charm alive. "Hey, Judge Vale," he said. "Didn't know you were stopping by." Rosemary's voice didn't rise. It flattened. "Where is my niece's money?" The room went still. Even Leo quieted, as if he felt it. Evan blinked. "What money?" "I don't." Rosemary didn't move. "Every transfer went into an account bearing Mira's name. An account you appear on as co-manager. An account she never had independent access to." I looked at Evan. He wouldn't look at me. "Things were complicated," he said. "Financially. The market. 2.5 years," I heard myself say. $150 a month. I did the math out loud because I needed him to hear the weight of it. "That's $4.5 million. "You told me we were struggling," I said. My hands shook. I let them. "I delivered groceries at midnight, pregnant. I declined the birthing suite because I thought we couldn't afford it." I looked at Janice. "And you were shopping." Evan finally looked at me. Not guilt. Calculation. "You don't understand what it takes to maintain credibility," he said. "Relationships. Expectations." "Whose expectations?" My voice cracked. Janice stepped forward, chin lifted. "Evan's career requires a certain image." "I'd recommend silence," Rosemary said. Janice froze. Rosemary turned to me. "Pack a bag," she said. "You and Leo are coming home with me tonight." Evan stepped forward. "Mira, don't." Rosemary lifted one finger, small, final. "Stop," she said. Evan stopped. That night, I slept in my childhood room at Rosemary's. Leo pressed against my chest like an anchor. I stared at the ceiling and felt the exhaustion of someone who has been carrying a weight without naming it until it's finally removed. The next morning, Rosemary introduced me to Lillian Hart. Lillian was 61, silver-haired, in a charcoal suit. She had the economy of someone who doesn't waste words. She'd been a prosecutor once. Now she specialized in financial abuse and civil fraud. She sat across from me at Rosemary's table with a thick folder. "Tell me everything," she said. "Don't editorialize." I talked. She asked a few clarifying questions. Then she opened the folder. "Good," she said. "Now let me show you what we already have." Wire transfer records, each deposit dated and time-stamped, flowing from Rosemary's Foundation into the account bearing my name. Then, within 48 hours, the money moved again. Split. Routed to a private account at a Delaware bank. Evan's name only. Lillian flipped a page. A brokerage account, she said. Not yours, not joint. His. Funded from your deposits. Another page. Offshore transfers, she said. 600,000 across 18 months. Then credit card statements. One card in Evan's name. Janice listed as an authorized user. $15,000 in 1 month. A hotel suite. A jewelry store. A wellness weekend that matched dates Evan claimed were conferences. Then Lillian reached the last item. She didn't soften her voice. She didn't offer comfort. This makes everything else redundant, she said. She slid a transcript across the table. A smart speaker in Janice's kitchen had logged a conversation and backed it up to the cloud. Timestamps. Voices. Words. Evan's voice. She'll never question it, he said in the transcript. She trusts us completely. And if anything surfaces, she'll come to me first. She always does. I read it twice. My vision narrowed at the edges. Lillian watched me. You okay? She asked. Keep going, I said. That was the moment grief turned into something cleaner. Not rage. Precision. Lillian laid out the plan. Civil filing, she said. Financial abuse, fraud, conversion, emergency order to restrict his access. Then she added the part that made it hurt. And we're going to do it with timing. Timing? I asked. Your husband is fundraising, she said. He signed a term sheet last week, 12 million committed. Second close pending. I didn't know. Of course I didn't. Investors don't like surprises, Lillian said. We file tomorrow morning. At 9 a.m. sharp, we notify compliance at every institution involved. The filing went in the next morning. By noon, Evan's world was ringing. He called Rosemary first. She didn't take it. He called me. I didn't take it. His texts came in 3 stages. Apology, explanation, accusation. I'm sorry. Please let me explain. You don't understand the pressure. You're letting her manipulate you. I didn't reply. Then Evan made the mistake that changed the temperature. He attended a donor dinner, stood up in front of a room, and said my postpartum state made me unstable. He said Judge Vale had kidnapped my son. He said I was being controlled by an elderly woman. He smiled while he said it. In that room were people who knew me professionally, and a woman named Dana Sutter, 74, connected, the kind of donor who doesn't tolerate mess. Lillian added defamation the next afternoon. Then she did something else. She invited Evan to a resolution meeting. Not a courtroom, not a law office, a hotel conference room, neutral ground, the kind of place Evan felt strongest. He agreed, because he couldn't resist a chance to regain the narrative. By then, my life had narrowed to Leo's feeding schedule and Lillian's updates. Evan arrived with Janice. Lillian arrived with a forensic accountant named Amir Delaney, quiet, glasses, laptop open. And I arrived with Rosemary. Not for protection, for witness pressure. If you're the type who comments, drop one word right now. Receipts. I didn't have receipts when I was delivering groceries. I have them now. The meeting started civil. Evan tried to speak first. He always did. Mira, he said, leaning forward like sincerity was a costume. We can handle this privately. Lillian didn't let him. We can, she said. If you're willing to sign. She slid a document across the table. 1 page. A stipulated agreement acknowledging misallocation of funds and consenting to an immediate freeze of the Delaware account pending litigation. Evan skimmed it too fast. That was the point, because buried in the second paragraph was the trap. By signing, he consented to Amir accessing his transaction history across related accounts linked through identity verification. Not just Delaware, everything tied to him. Brokerage, offshore, credit card activity. Evan looked up. This is standard? It's the fastest way to stop the bleeding, Lillian said. Janice leaned in. Evan, don't sign anything. Evan's jaw tightened. He hated being corrected in public. He picked up the pen, and he signed. Not just signed, he initialed every line like he wanted everyone to know he wasn't afraid. He slid it back with a thin smile. There, he said. Now we can move forward. Lillian nodded once. Good, she said. Then Amir opened his laptop wider, and Lillian pressed a button on a small speaker sitting in the center of the table. A plain black device. A prop most people wouldn't notice. The room filled with Evan's voice. "She'll never question it." Janice's head snapped up. Evan's face went blank. The recording continued. "She trusts us completely," Evan's voice said. "And if anything surfaces, she'll come to me first. She always does." Janice's voice followed, sharp and pleased. "Good," Janice said. "Keep her busy. Keep her tired. When she's tired, she won't ask questions." The audio ended. Silence. Evan stared at the speaker like it had betrayed him. Janice's mouth opened, then shut. Lillian didn't smile. She slid another paper forward. "Receipt 1, she said, tapping the signed agreement. "Your signature consenting to independent access." Then she nodded at Amir. "Receipt 2. Amir turned his laptop toward them. A spreadsheet of time-stamped transfers. Merchant codes. Patterns. A clean timeline of theft. He clicked into a folder of digital artifacts. Email headers. IP logs. A forwarded message from Evan's phone to a private email. A device login record showing Evan accessing my account settings at 2:13 a.m. on a night I was asleep on the couch with swollen ankles. Lillian's voice stayed level. "Receipt 3, she said. Behavior." She looked at Evan. "You told your wife you were broke," she said. "Then you told a room full of donors she was unstable. That wasn't desperation. That was strategy." Evan's throat moved. He tried to speak. Janice reached for his arm, but control doesn't come back once it's recorded. Evan leaned forward, voice low. "This is extortion." Lillian blinked slowly. "No," she said, "it's documentation." Rosemary spoke once, calm and lethal. "One of you raised him," she said to Janice. "And it shows." Janice's face tightened. "How dare you?" Lillian cut in. "We're done talking," she said. "Now we move to consequences." She picked up her phone. "In 10 minutes, your funds compliance officer gets our filing and your signed stipulation," she said. "In 20, the lead investor gets the same." Evan's face changed. He wasn't calculating anymore. He was scrambling. He grabbed his phone. His thumb moved fast. "Don't," Lillian said. Evan froze too late. Amir's eyes flicked to the screen. "He's attempting to move funds," Amir said. "Right now." Layer 1 hit first. Transfer failed. Then, account temporarily restricted. Then, card declined. The notification pings were small, but in that room, they sounded like public humiliation. Evan stared at his phone like it had turned on him. Janice whispered, "Evan." He looked up at Lillian. "You're ruining me." Lillian's voice stayed flat. "You did that. That was payoff 1. Not a speech. Not a moral. Just the machine refusing him." But it didn't stop there. Evan stood up. He tried to leave. He reached for the signed paper like he could take it back. Rosemary stood too, placing herself between him and the door without drama. Evan stopped, because he still respected authority when it looked like a wall. Lillian nodded toward the door. 2 investigators walked in, not uniforms, not movie theatrics. Plain clothes, quiet posture. They held out a document in a folder, court-stamped. The same stamp I'd heard in the clinic. The folder opened, and Evan's face emptied out. Layer 2 didn't arrive as a punch. It arrived as procedure. "Mr. Pike," one of them said, "you are being served with a federal preservation order regarding accounts associated with suspected wire fraud and laundering." Janice made a sharp inhale. Evan's mouth opened. No charm came out, because there is no charm for a stamp. He looked at me then, voice cracking just enough to sound human. "Mira, please." I didn't answer. I watched. Because that's what he'd counted on never happening. He'd counted on me not looking. He'd counted on Rosemary not looking. He'd counted on fatigue as a blindfold. He'd counted right until he didn't. They didn't handcuff him in front of us. They didn't need to. They walked him out. And Janice, who had spent 2 years rearranging my life like furniture, stood frozen, knuckles pale. That was payoff too. Loss of posture. Loss of control. In the weeks that followed, everything felt like aftermath. Evan tried every channel. Apologies. Enga. Voicemails engineered to sound sincere. One line kept repeating, "I did it for us." He said it like theft was teamwork. Lillian handled the legal side. Investors pulled out fast. The 12 million Evan had been counting on disappeared before the week ended. Partners stopped answering. The venture filed dissolution. Janice tried to rebuild the narrative, told people I was unstable again. But this time, the room wasn't hers. Dana Sutter circulated a clean summary, sanitized, legally safe, unmistakable. Donors don't do emotion, they do risk. The federal case moved slower than the civil one, but it moved like gravity. Once accounts freeze, once offshore links document, once signatures exist, charm becomes useless. 3 months after the meeting, Lillian called me. Restitution is on the table, she said. Damages are likely. Your name is clean. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt light. Around that time, I signed a lease on a small house 5 minutes from Rosemary's. Not big. Just mine. I went back to work part-time, consulting, compliance, contracts, my schedule, my rules. Leo started smiling at 4 months. I didn't yet. One morning, Rosemary and I sat on her porch while Leo napped. I should have structured it differently, she said. A direct account in your name alone. She didn't say it to comfort herself. She said it like a judge naming a procedural failure. I trusted him because you loved him, she said. And I used your judgment as a substitute for my own. I didn't know, I said. I know, Rosemary replied. That's what made it work. We sat with that for a while. I don't think about Evan every day anymore. Some weeks, I barely think about him at all. That's recovery too. The last thing I heard from him directly was a voicemail. He said he'd made mistakes. He said he'd loved me. He said he hoped I could forgive him for Leo's future. It was carefully constructed. I could hear the performance. I saved it, not for me, for Leo. So one day, when he asks, he can hear what his father sounded like when remorse was a strategy. At about the 15-minute mark of this story, if you stayed, hit subscribe. Not because you pity me, because you recognize the pattern. That woman delivering groceries at midnight, proud of her grit? She wasn't foolish. She was targeted by someone who studied her trust and treated it as renewable. That's different. There's a word for what I felt when it ended. Not rage. Not relief. Lightness. Rosemary thought the money was what would keep me comfortable. It wasn't. The most valuable thing she gave me was the moment she heard the truth and didn't negotiate with it. She picked up the phone, she got me Lillian. She put a stamp on the lie, and she watched it collapse. If you're in the tight season of your own life, if someone always manages the accounts, always holds the passwords, always tells you not to worry, here are the only 3 rules I live by now. No shared money without independent access. No trust me without receipts. No fatigue used as a business model. Evan used my tiredness like a lock. Now I sleep. Now I look. Now I keep my own keys. And the next time someone tells me, don't worry, I'm handling it, I'll smile politely and ask for the statement. Because that's where the truth lives. On paper, stamped, dated, impossible to charm.